Streaming live on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Good afternoon from the WFLA Now studio. I'm 8 on your side's Justin Schecker. We continue to follow the story of Gaede and Phil Corder. They're the Citrus County couple that sounded the alarm about the conditions aboard the cruise ship docked in Japan during a coronavirus outbreak. Gaede is a novelist, her husband a documentary filmmaker. They arrived back in the United States around 4 in the morning on Monday after a 12-hour State Department chartered flight from Tokyo International Airport. They're among the more than 300 Americans evacuated after being stuck on that cruise ship for nearly 2 weeks during a quarantine period. We learned today, according to NBC News, there are now 624 cases of the coronavirus connected to the outbreak on that cruise ship. That's roughly 1 in 6 people on board. Passengers testing negative for the virus were finally allowed to leave that ship starting today. We're so happy to be joined here live now on WFLA Now with Gaede Corder. She joins us live from Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Gaede, thank you so much for joining us here. I know we spoke last time you were still on that cruise ship in Japan. My first question for you, are you and your husband still healthy?
Thank goodness we've passed our temperature checks this morning. You know, when they knock on the door with the thermometers, our heart drops a little bit, and there's a few seconds until we're cleared because other people here haven't been so lucky.
How does the quarantine conditions at this Air Force base compare to the cruise ship? Do you feel safer back on U.S. soil?
Well, first of all, we are extremely grateful that we were extracted, and that's the word they use. We were extracted and repatriated, things I never thought I'd ever hear. And it feels darn good to be an American, to have the privilege of having them come for us and to take care of us here on this base. On the other hand, we've already spent 2 weeks in quarantine with the numbers going up and up and getting more and more frightened and begging Americans to come for us, and they did. However, the quarters here are minimally okay. It's hard to get a bath towel or a mat for the floor. They come around with little brown bags from the mess hall of food that's maybe more appropriate for a 20-year-old recruit than people of our age, but it's food, it's courtesy of the United States, and we appreciate what they're doing, and we completely support the need to be here. It's not fun.
How's the food compared to back in Japan on the cruise ship?
Well, the cruise ship is used to turning out fabulous meals many times a day for thousands of passengers, and they do a brilliant job of it. This food is minimal grub, and the other was fine dining.
Yeah. Do you feel the U.S. government acted quickly enough to launch this evacuation mission? We know we heard from you about 9-10 days ago saying, come for us now. Do you feel your elected officials, the State Department, acted quickly enough to evacuate you and the other Americans on that cruise ship?
I think they acted a lot sooner than we knew, because this was a massive, complex, expensive operation. The parts of it could have been done a little more smartly in terms of our health, but it was amazing. I mean, just when we got to Lackland Air Force Base, let me just describe the scene for a minute. This giant cargo jet that we're in, you know, with porta potties for toilets bolted to the floor, and this whole isolation room, and the guys taking care of us were in hazmat suits, some of them with these green Ghostbuster hoods, you know, with the you know, this
protective
the hoses going in the back, and the whole thing. It was an otherworldly scene, and we landed a foggy morning, and the lights are kind of blurred, like, you know, headlights in a fog. And there's the men in the little white suits running around the plane. Everybody on the airfield is in a white hazmat suit. It looked like we were the spacemen who had landed and in, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then We walk into this brightly lit, huge aircraft hangar, and all the service, and that moment is I broke into tears. It was like they really wanted us back. They all came for us. And then the hangar was filled with 100 people in hazmat suits who were going to process us through immigration, get us housing, check our health and our temperatures. So this was a huge endeavor, and it had to take several weeks of planning. So I'm going to assume, they were trying to come for us earlier than we even knew.
Again, we are joined now here live on WFLA Now with Gaede Corder from Citrus County, one of the American evacuees from that cruise ship in Japan. Again, now more than 600 people have tested positive for the coronavirus. We learned the other day from the State Department, Gaede, that 14 of the American evacuees who got on board those aircraft, one to Texas, the other to the Air Force Base in California, 14 of those Americans tested positive. You mentioned those isolation chambers they had on board your plane. Were some of these infected passengers flying with you back to Texas?
Well, the first I learned of it is I was in line for the porta potty, and this is before the plane took off. And she had to be maybe 3 feet from me. And a guy in a hazmat suit walked up to her and said that she had tested positive in Japan and she had to go into this chamber. And she had a look of horror on her face. And then I realized this woman is so close to me, closer than I've been next to anybody, for 2 weeks sitting in my stateroom on the ship. And I looked at this containment thing of plastic, and I didn't feel that great about that. So those people, whether it was 10 or 14, we don't know who was on which plane, but we both had these containment chambers. But she wasn't in it till she walked in it, and she was in association with us. And then we heard that during the flight, several people had high temperatures, and they were put in the same area. So then again, here's 3 or 4 more people that we had associated with on the bus or, on the airplane. They could have been the people sitting in front of me for all I know.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, in my opinion, chance to get contaminated. But even then, we get back here, and the next morning there are ambulances taking away 3 more people who had somehow become positive during the night. And so we were associated with those people.
Wow.
So we're not feeling very confident that our negative status is going to necessarily last. So we're very nervous about that.
Well, we're wishing you two the best. We know you've been through a lot. And one of the quotes that stuck out to me last week was, you said you feared as much being separated from your husband as actually testing positive because you've been through this long journey together, all those weeks they're on the cruise ship. What would you tell your neighbors back here in Tampa Bay, in Citrus County, Crystal River? Should they be worried when you eventually return home?
Oh, if we complete this 14 days on top of the other 14 days, we're fine. They've even said in Japan that people, they're letting off the ship now, Americans who chose to stay or other nationalities that went through the whole quarantine, they're fine to go. However, if there are Americans who chose to stay, which there are many, they now can't come back to the United States for 14 days. And then they still have to do 14 days of quarantine like that. So I think they're using extreme caution in letting us into the United States and into the general population. We're going to be fine after 28 days by every single calculation of contamination. So we're worried about us. We think being here is the right thing for our family and friends, our grandchildren. We don't want to bring a disease to anybody.
Yeah.
But if we're clear, we're good to go home. And if we get sick, we'll be cleared out of a hospital and we'll be good to go home.
And if you do somehow test positive, you said you'll feel more comfortable being back in the United States. I'm sure getting obviously the best care possible there on the Air Force Base. I'm trying to think if we have any other questions from our viewers on Facebook. Please share them this way. We will ask Gaede Quarter while we have her still live here on WFLA Now. I have to ask, we were talking about this before the live broadcast began. We did learn there was another couple from Citrus County. You mentioned you're actually friends with them. Did they evacuate as well?
Yes, they did, and they were very close friends. And Dr. Mendizabal is our family physician for many years. Unfortunately, even though we asked not to be separated because we were traveling together, they ended up on Travis Air Force Base in California. We don't know how that happened or why. We're all still healthy right now. And they're disturbed. They would rather be here. Actually, we would have liked to have stayed on Travis because our children, one of our children is nearby, and we could have seen them at the end of all of this.
Yeah.
But not to be.
You showed me before you had a prison break sheet for your days stuck on the cruise ship. Do you have one here? You want to show our viewers your sheet? What day of quarantine in America are you on?
Well, day 3, it looks like. We're not quite sure what the official start day is, but we gave it some leeway, and I think we'll, hoping the last day will be March 1st.
And we hope to see.
They keep changing the deal on us.
Yeah. One of our viewers is asking, where is your husband? I know Phil's been providing so many great photos. We can see the two of you on our screen right now. Phil, he's there with you on the other side, the camera, ma'am, correct?
Right. He's here with me, thank goodness. And we're trying to document all of this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of strange and unusual things that nobody's ever been through that we ever heard about. And, for us, everything kind of blurs together. When you're on the other side of the world in Japan, it's a different day of the week and different times. And all of this is kind of blending in. Mm-hmm. Mostly, though, we're very grateful to be under the care of the Americans.
Well, again, we're glad you're back. Look forward to meeting you back here in Florida, hopefully in about 12 days or so. I mentioned off the top, you are a novelist. You were telling me you mainly write fiction novels, but have you started writing your next book about this ordeal on the cruise ship back to the States? Have you started writing your next book?
Well, I am taking notes, but it won't be fiction because truth is much stranger than fiction. And some of the things that have happened are so unusual and so bizarre that I think it's going to be a great story. You know, my son said when I was so sad about another 14 days, he said, "Mom, you're a writer. Isn't it the writer's dream to be locked in a room for 2 weeks and have a fabulous story to tell?"
Well, we're glad you're sharing with us. We're glad we got to speak with you last week while you're still on the cruise ship in Yokohama. We're happy to talk to you here today. Just we'll have a few more minutes live before we get off the air. Just any more questions on Facebook, please send them my way. I'll try to get a couple in before we wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. But again, Gay, you've thanked the American officials, the president, the State Department for putting together this mission. Any final thoughts as I wait for a few more questions? Just what do you think is the most important thing you want to share with our viewers about where you are now in this long journey that you've gone through with your husband?
Well, I've never been on a military base before. And, you get woken with reveille, and then there's taps in the afternoon, and everybody stops and puts their hand on their heart, and they play the Star-Spangled Banner. And now we're all putting on our masks and standing at our doors. And it's a really special moment because it's an American story. And we're so lucky to be Americans and have the country behind us. And we're grateful for everything we have.
Gaede Quarter joining us live from Lackland Air Force Base. Again, she's one of the more than 300 Americans evacuated by the Department of State mission, getting on board that aircraft for the more than 12-hour flight from Japan back to the United States. Just take one quick question from Amy Johns before we sign off. Are they giving you any vitamins, anything to help keep you healthy? I guess any medication they're giving you there on the base?
Well, actually, the cruise ship delivered multivitamins to us. and these little Japanese drinks, kind of yogurty, that are supposed to have a lot of vitamins in it, and they're quite delicious, but we're not getting any more of those here.
Okay.
And we are taking our vitamins and trying to eat healthy and stay healthy, get plenty of sleep, get over jet lag. I mean, that's the part of the work we can do.
Yeah. Another comment from Noreen: may God bless you and keep you in good health. So a lot of well wishes coming our way from our viewers on WFLA Now. Again, a big thank you to Gaede Corder, an author from Citrus County. She is now back in the United States after being stuck on that cruise ship in Japan. We're so glad you and your husband remain in good health. We wish you all the best for the remainder of your journey. And hopefully the next time we speak, you'll be landing back here at Tampa International Airport in good health. And I know your friends and family can't wait for that. But again, thank you so much to our viewers joining us on WFLA Now. We'll have more of Gaede Corder's story on our newscast at 4 and 5 this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Justin Shecker, 8 on your side. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Gaede.
Thanks to everybody, especially the guys at Tampa General Hospital who got us our meds.
Appreciate that shout out for our local hospital. Thank you so much for joining us live here on WFLA Now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.